button.
Okay, very good.
You know. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode here on the OWLL Podcast, powered by Celsius Beverage. If this is your first time tuning in, we are now doing this on audio as well on video at OWL App everywhere, as well as my LinkedIn account, Jason R. Hill. We bring in some of the most impactful people around the world into this studio every single week. And how cool is this? That if you're live on the OWL App, you get a chance that we may call you and plug you into this show. We're on the few podcasts that do this. It's like old school radio. And I'm joined by my co-host, Ellie Santra. What is up, Ellie?
Not much. Just happy to be here today and excited for this weekend that we have going on.
Yes, big weekend. TEDx Boca Raton. We have a big partnership with them.
Yep. Yeah, we're about to go to the exclusive mansion party after
That's a
this.
secret. That's a secret.
Oh, it's a secret. Never mind. Okay.
No, but it's a secret that if you connect with the right professionals out there through networking, you get invited to mansions, and it's the pre-party to TEDx. A lot of speakers have flown in, and Cindy Metzler got this house, and they're going to do a lot of content, and a lot of people are just going to connect, because building a business is about connecting and building rich relationships. And often people just want to get a shortcut to success, you know, by creating a social media post and go viral and then live on a beach. But we know that's just not the case. Almost every entrepreneur we ever interview typically does it through rich relationships.
And that's how I met our guest today. Just literally in life, hanging out at a friend's house. And then I realized she'd be perfect for the podcast. So we have Melodie van der Baan today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And I love what you've built with OWL. I think it's really absolutely exceptional. Well, I actually founded my third company, which is Max Retail, and we enable independent retailers who have excess inventory to sell it online. And we make that super simple because they have really incredible businesses to run in store. We work with over 2,000 sellers today in all 50 states. And it is just a really, really impactful company, and it gives me a great sense of purpose. But before that, I was an independent retailer, had a store in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida for 9 years. And then I was a distributor for 5 years before that. And just really that entire 14-year span dealing in inventory.
Sounds like an overnight success.
Yeah, I've actually been living this
so
problem
easily.
a long time, right? This is my problem to solve. I love it so much.
So what comes to mind immediately is my wife's favorite store, TJ Maxx, right? And I just think of that store, brick and mortar, and they get all this inventory and it's so discounted, right? So obviously you're not TJ Maxx. You're more behind the scenes online. So explain in more detail the concepts so our audience could really gain an understanding what you mean by 2,000 sellers and, you know, them having extra inventory and passing it to you. And then what happens? Like, kind of go into more detail.
Sure. So if you'll think about where you live and your favorite stores down Main Street, there's a store that you pop into. They have your favorite brands. They maybe carry somewhere between 30 to 60 different brands in store, and they have a sale rack. You don't think much of it. Maybe you shop it. Maybe you don't.
I do think about it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, where is the sale rack? That is the first thing I do.
That is the rack that I go to.
Me too.
You know, especially at expensive
three.
stores, right? Like if I go to the mall and I go to Diesel, you know, I like their jeans. I'm like, some of them, they've gotten very pricey.
Right.
Nowadays, like the retail price on, and this is an outlet. Some of them they're like $400 or $500.
Right.
I'm like, what's going on? I was like, they used to be expensive, but not at that level. And then sometimes you go to that sales rack because sometimes they're like $75 to $150. Even expensive, but at least they do hold their value from all that jeans that I've ever purchased. They're the only ones that don't fall apart somehow.
See, and there's the thing. There's brands that you absolutely love.
Yep.
And when we buy from small businesses, it's really, really important because these small businesses, they actually underpin our local economies. When I own my retail store, every charity would walk in my door and ask for a donation. Every school came in and needed a donation, and I loved giving to them. And so when you benefit a small business, you actually benefit your entire town. But those sale racks, they don't look like much to you, but it's actually an average of $100,000 a year in financial losses for these small businesses. It's $100,000 that is not making it back to their bank account to buy more inventory, to pay rent, to pay payroll. And from experiencing that for a couple of years, I just said something has got to exist. And so,
yeah, it's my wife. She goes there and she's like, Jason, it was on sale. I didn't spend that much money.
That's right.
Look at these deals.
She's
I'm
got to
like,
do what
so
she's
now
got to do.
I got to tell her she's doing
a solid for that small business.
For that small, she's going to love you.
Precisely. I got her back.
You do.
So here's the thing. Most people assume that these small businesses, when they have unsold inventory, that they just sell it to TJ Maxx, that they just give it up. But the truth is that's not what happens at all. These small businesses, first of all, don't know the buyers at TJ Maxx and places like that. But the second thing is the prices that TJ Maxx would pay for that inventory is pennies on the dollar. So if you're a retailer and you paid wholesale cost for an item, you might, and my customers, their average wholesale cost on an item is around $70 wholesale. TJ Maxx, if you could sell to them, would give you maybe $5. Maybe if you're really lucky, 10, you're not getting 70 back. And the problem with that is not only that they don't know those people, but the math, when it doesn't work out, and even if you did that deal, let's say they knew TJ Maxx and they did get that $7, you don't get enough cash recuperation to where you can actually buy something else. And so with Max Retail, what we've done is we've essentially built a platform where these independent retailers are able to connect via their point of sale, whether it's Shopify or Lightspeed, or if they have a different point of sale, they can even just list manually. And on our platform, we actually match their last, what we call them onesies, twosies, like the last single or double unit you have available. We match their last pair of jeans with the exact same pair of jeans that's available from other retailers just like them around the country. So on our platform, it's not a onesie, twosie. We might have 20 pairs of that same jean that's available from different sellers. And what we do then is that data normally comes to us lacking, right? It's just a pair of jeans. But we look up the rise, the inseam, the wash care, the country of origin. We do this through AI. We do it through web scraping. We have a number of different methods of how we enhance data. And why do we do that? It's because we're prepping it to be sold online so that when your wife is shopping online, she might actually buy a pair of jeans.
Shop online. Come on. She's all brick and mortar TJ Maxx. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if she feels crazy one day and she's shopping online and she sees this great deal of jeans online, she has no idea. But when she purchases it, that order might pipe through Max Retail. And our seller, that small business in, let's say, Dallas, Texas, gets a text that says, "Great news, your jeans sold."
Ooh.
At that moment, she approves the sale, gets a prepaid label. She doesn't even have to pay for shipping. And as soon as those jeans are shipped out, we pay her 85% of her cost back. So now she has enough money to go and buy another item that she can make full price on. And that is just a really it's a rewarding mission. I love it every single day when I see these sales coming through and I see these retailers who would normally have merchandise sitting on a sale rack, getting it out the door, increasing their turns. In retail, we call it a turn.
And is it all direct to consumer? Like I could go on the site and get it, or is it more ads and I'm not noticing, for example?
We work with what's called sales channels, right? So a sales channel is simply a website that people love to shop on and they need more drop ship inventory, right? So some that you're familiar with might be like Poshmark or eBay, but there's a lot of more, a lot more sales channels that are full price retail, and we work with them as well. So we have 18 different sales channels today. We'll have 26 live by the end of the year, and that spans between the US, Canada, and Latin America.
So in terms of, are there returns allowed on these sites?
So on some of the sites, there are returns allowed, but we absorb them so that it doesn't go back to our independent retailers, because the last thing you want to see is that item coming back to you after you've already been staring at it for 6, 8, 12 months in store.
So then what do you guys, so then if you get a return, then you just put it back up again?
We have to resell it. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. But it's important for our customers. I think for us, the most important thing is what serves our customer, because I'm so obsessed with her, him, they. I just adore them. And, you know, one of the core pillars of Max Retail is discretion.
Yeah.
These retailers, sometimes they're embarrassed about how much unsold inventory they have. They don't want to be attached to it. They don't want to sell it online directly, outside of the fact that selling online is really complicated. But they just don't want to tie to it. And so when they list it on Max Retail, it's completely anonymous. There's no tie back to them. And we can quietly dispel it, pay them back for it, and they can focus on buying new inventory, serving their customers well, taking care of their communities.
And then, like, how many of these, I don't know if you said this number already, because there's a lot of information, but how many consumers, like, do you have currently?
We reach 400 million end consumers through our 18 partner sites today.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot.
It's really exciting. And our sellers, they make anywhere from $500 a month up to $20,000 a month from Max Retail.
Okay, gotcha. So I guess how many sellers do you have then? Or
2,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, across the US.
And how do people I guess they find you through, like, how do the sellers find you?
That's a great question. So today, 40% of our new customers are from other retailers spreading the good news. So customer generated referrals. And the rest come from a mix of things like this, right? Sometimes someone will hear me and say, hey, wait a minute. That's my industry. I have a store. I have a sale rack. Let me go to maxretail.com, right? And so that's pretty fascinating when that happens. Trade shows. We love to be at the places where our customers go.
I was at a store yesterday that is closing in Palm Beach Gardens and like got an item because they're like, everything has to go. So now I'm like, ooh, I should refer them to you.
Well, so that's the interesting thing. So most of our customers are actually really thriving businesses.
Yeah.
And they just have this problem that's not worth their time.
Mm.
So I would say less than 10% of our customers are planning on going out of business or going out of business. And I would say 90% of our customers are hopping. They're omni. They're selling
those are the ones
store and online.
Yeah. Well, these people actually, they have 2 stores. So they're just shutting down one of their stores and moving it. So, but I was just
then
like,
you want
I
Max
feel
Retail.
Like, yeah.
Yes.
Are you allowed to tell us some of your biggest clients, for example, or they kind of don't want to be known? It's kind of hidden. Because I get the sense, like if it's Walmart, if it's Target, right? They kind of like, we kind of want to keep this a secret.
That's exactly right. So the hardest part about our job is because discretion is a core pillar, we don't get to brag very well. So what I can say is there's plenty of publicly traded companies that utilize Max Retail today. There's some of the top luxury boutique retailers across the country who've been partners with us for years. And, although sometimes it holds us back from growth that we can't toot our own horn, at the same time, they will tell another retailer. So that is where the customer generated referrals propel us forward, where leveraging the customers we have today externally isn't something that we promote.
Is there a lot of competition in this space?
So generally speaking, liquidation is what people turn to most, not small businesses like the ones I serve, as I mentioned, because of unit economics. But there are other things like, for instance, I would say our biggest competitor would be somebody deciding that they're going to sell online themselves. So if you have another employee in store that you can fully dedicate to it, you could probably successfully sell on, 4, maybe 5 marketplaces. That's where Max Retail is different because not only is it completely anonymous when you're selling on Max Retail, but you're getting as many marketplaces as we launch, your inventory is going to get access to if it qualifies, if your performance is good. It's very important. Retailers have to approve orders in 24 hours, ship in 48, have a 98% order approval rating. Like we do have guidelines.
Yeah. What are the guidelines? Because there's a lot of people that act like they run a business, but they kind of don't, right? Because I could say, I have all this inventory I bought, and then I have an eBay store, and then I have an Instagram account versus your brick and mortar where you could actually see the store, they're legitimate, right? They have an EIN number, right? So where is the line, I guess, drawn with those guidelines where they could be one of those 2,000 sellers, for example?
I would say authenticity, right? So we have to be able to vet them. So if they have a physical storefront, if they carry brand name apparel and they're obviously selling it publicly on their Shopify site, that they are a vendor of that brand because they have a location in that. We do have some really interesting customers. I call them the hacker retailers. They don't have physical storefronts. They actually buy liquidation from jobbers and sell it on Max Retail because they were selling on marketplaces directly in the past. And then they're like, wait, that's too much work. I'll just use Max Retail and they'll do it all for me. So it's hysterical to me, but we do have to vet those sellers much more carefully. It is really interesting to see though, that that's a customer that we serve. And then we also have enterprise. We have large companies, but I would say the common denominator is they're multi-brand. They don't carry one brand in store. They carry 40 to 60 brands in store. The reason why that benefits them is maybe we can't sell everything they have, but if they have 5 to 10 brands that are selling really well, then we know that we can turn that into cash for them. And then really the goal is to continue to grow our distribution network so that we can sell through more of the inventory that we have today. It's very important to us. Time to sell, right? How long does it take for a seller to get a sale and how much time is it between their sales? Things that we track very closely. And then how much are we paying them? Are we paying them more every month than the month before? Super important.
Well, I want to learn more about you, right? Because often we hear so much about the journey of the actual business, but you are the leader of this business, right? Tell us about your past companies quickly. I know we could probably talk for hours about those, but then a little bit about like your routine, right? How do you kind of get through the week? Like you put out a lot of fires, when you're working with this many sellers, when you're working with this many brands, employees have bad days, right? And you got to be that leader and put them in a good mood. So let's just talk about, the past brands and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I think a strength of mine is that I didn't go to college. I've never worked for really any other company. So I've never had any kind of a standard to go by. I've only had my own intrinsic motivation, and it's kind of jacked, not going to lie, right? Like
you're always, I feel like every time I see you, you're just like so positive, and I'm like, how does she do
Did
it?
she just drink a Celsius? What's going on here?
I'm telling you, I got just this natural, joyous Celsius running through my blood. And I love doing hard things well. And it's a core value of Max Retail. So my background, if I say like, where did this come from? Like, how did I get to be built like this? Is really my mom, right? Like we look at our parents and we see who they are, and there are things about them that build us up. And to a fault, I'm a workaholic, just like her, but I watched her work 3 jobs when I was a young child. And she always had such joy on her face. And one of the jobs is she actually became commissioner of OWLL Park. And she did not have any political background. She just didn't like what she saw was happening in our city. So I was 8, my sister was 9. This is before social media. So we just printed flyers. Yeah. And my mom said, you go down that street, you go down that street. I'm going down this street. Knock on every door and tell them why they should vote for me. And that was how I started door knocking. And she got elected.
Mommy's good. That's all it takes, right?
And from there, we didn't have a lot of money, but she never told me no. So, Mom, I want to be in this beauty pageant. Go knock on every door and see if someone will sponsor you. See if a number of people will sponsor you. So I did that. I just went knocking on the door. And you know what? I raised enough money to get in the pageant. Same thing. Mom, I want to go on a ski trip with the youth group. Well, we don't have any money for that. Go wash cars. And that just continued to build in me this can-do, anything is possible spirit. So a mix between her hard work and her joy and never telling me no. To this day, no is not a great thing for me, right? I don't accept no well. I normally add a T and then a yet to it. Not yet is what I hear. No's not really doesn't really resound. Even my husband knows that. He'll be like, sure, we can get you a convertible later. He won't even say the word no.
One day.
Right. But from there, it just continued to be a pattern in my life. Long story short, I was living on my own by the time I was 16, working 2-3 jobs myself, and really just trying to find my own way. Graduated from a really great private school, but I had already felt alienated from my peers, right? I didn't feel like an 18-year-old kid who was going to go to college. So I didn't choose that path. And when I told my mom that, I was terrified. And I said, Mom, listen, I just don't think it's for me. I don't know what I want to do yet. And she said, Mel, I'm not worried about you. You're a leader. You'll figure it out. You want to talk about pressure? That is pressure.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting, thing to come out of your mother's mouth, because most mothers like, you're not doing that. You're going to college. You need a degree. Right. Even though you may not learn that much at college, it's important to have, because, it's something to fall back on. If you need to get a job, you need to get an opening, interview. Like, they're not going to take you serious without that certificate. Right.
Right.
And also the pressure on parents today. We were just talking about this last week. With our past guests, is like the pressure that, parents feel to fit in, to be like, you have to go to school, because I don't want to tell my friends that my daughter's not going to school. So I give your mom a lot of credit for saying, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't care what they think. My dad had that mentality. He owned a store in New York City, and he passed away last October. I've talked a lot about it, just like he was my ultimate mentor, and how important it was, because he kind of did what you're speaking about, like just saying, you want this, go get it. Right. And I would be in his store in New York City just selling goods, and he embarrassed the shit out of me. And sometimes, like, I could tell, like, you got embarrassed at times. Like when Mom said, like, you want to be in the pageant, like, go make some money, go figure it out. And you're like, some of that was embarrassing, but it built you to who you are today. And that's why I am the way I am today. Cause I'm like, nothing can embarrass me. Right. Nothing. And people are like, don't you get embarrassed by that, Jason? I'm like, no, I lived in the Hill household where, my dad called himself Captain Hook. And literally, like in New York City, like put around the road and like nowadays he'd probably get sued, but he would like pull it, people would jump, and he would just get laughter, having people laugh, and just sell a lot of stuff he bought from, flea markets and garage sales. So it's actually very similar to your industry.
Totally.
You buy stuff very inexpensive, and
Yes.
resell it in his retail store.
Retail.
There was no eBay back then.
Yeah.
And I just learned the fundamentals of business through him, but most importantly, relationship building.
Yes.
What your mom taught you was, this is how you build a relationship. And, my whole thing was you go, you get. Like the more people you'd meet, the more things that would come out of those relationships. So I see that in what you're speaking about with your mother and just saying, screw what my friends think that she's not going to school, because that's hard.
Yeah. And can I be honest with you? I don't even think that ever crossed my mom's mind. I don't think she ever thought about what other people thought, because I think you have to realize, and if I'm speaking to anyone, I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're an employee that's, really just content and never wants to build anything past contributing to where you're happy today, that's great. But your value should not come from what you do. You are valuable. Mm-hmm. And if you truly understand your value, someone can say no to you and it doesn't hurt at all. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think that's the most beautiful thing. And so, I had a therapist say that to me. I have done lots of years of therapy. If you're not working on yourself, you ain't doing the work, right? And she said to me, you are already more valuable than anything you will ever do or accomplish. And that released me. I think I was around 25 when I received that gift. Mm-hmm. And it shifted what drove me. And I no longer failed to call upon people who turned me down one day, because I didn't take it personally anymore. They weren't saying no to me. You don't know what's going on in someone's life. They could just be busy. They could be going through something personal. They could not have enough money. You just don't know. But if you can just love someone in spite of a no and build that relationship, it pays dividends. Mm-hmm. I will say the investors that I pitch. So, we've raised money at Max Retail. We have absolutely spectacular investors behind us. But I had to go out there and talk to hundreds of investors to get to that point. And some of those that told me no became some of my dearest friends today, because I didn't care that they had to tell me no on business. I knew that we could add value to each other's lives outside of a check. Mm-hmm.
That's that. I'm lost for words over here,
Mm-hmm.
because it's an amazing story to really just weed out all the BS sometimes, the noise. And that's a superpower, of course. Your mom had it, you have it, because with social media today, it's so hard, right?
I agree.
When I'm looking at OWLL and I see someone delete their account, I'm like, no, why are they deleting? I know that individual. And sometimes it's hard to think well, on the other side, they're having a bad day.
Right.
Right. And they're not thinking about all the things I'm thinking about. Right. They're just thinking, I just gotta get this off my phone. It's annoying.
I'm out of memory.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
It's annoying. It's a notification.
But it might even just be that I ran out of space on my phone.
It could have been. There's so many things, and we all judge everyone so easily today because of social media.
Right.
We see certain things and then we want to fit in, and it's hard to do what you're saying and practice it.
Yeah.
So did you have a failure moment, I guess, where you overcame? You talk about therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And often we see from entrepreneurs, they had that failure, which created that thick skin of theirs to get to where they are. Because you're making this sound really easy, but I'm
let's
assuming,
talk about that failure. It is
if
so good.
If you went to therapy, I'm like, there's gotta be some dark spaces, in this journey.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because I had to disclose this. When you have investors backing you, there's a lot of disclosures that you have to give, right? And so my favorite one was, in this 90-page document of disclosures, it was like, has any founder of the company had a bankruptcy? And I'm like, hey, that's me.
I was 18.
I was 20. Correct. So not going to college, I entered the real estate market. And I participated in the real estate market from 2005 to 2007. Mm. And if anyone knows those years, the height and the fall, and we all fell hard. And so I had taken all the money that I had made and I had purchased houses, and then I lost them all.
Oh, you were doing great though at that moment.
That's
a depressing time, because 2005-7 and you're young and you're like, look at me now, didn't go to college.
That's right.
I'm driving a Range Rover.
That's right. My Mercedes, my little hot red car.
Mm-hmm. I'm doing everything perfect. And
and
then overnight,
that's right,
you're worth negative, right? Because all the housing, $1 million home became $500,000 home.
And I had to drive my car to Mercedes and hand over the keys.
Oh.
I wonder how many of those that they saw. Probably a lot at that time.
And I had to move out of my house and move into a room that my friend had available for me to rent.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out what came next. And I will never forget saying, wow, I was always so hardworking to prove something to someone and be rich and blah, blah, blah. And I just lost everything that I was so afraid to lose, that I was gaining for the wrong reason. And it was the most freeing thing that could have ever happened to me to have a foreclosure before the age of 21, because then I understood that my priorities were wrong. My drive was misaligned. And that if you lose it all, as long as you got your health, who gives a care? Whatever. I don't know if we can curse on the podcast.
We can curse. This is
Okay,
Owl.
just
This is the Owwll one.
This is the Owl one. My other one,
Yeah.
less likely. But this one, do whatever you want.
So, and that's when I went to start my next business, which was to be a distributor, which is a fancy word for a young girl who got a Sprinter van, loaded it with clothes from the designers that I represented, and I drove from South Florida to Boston, over to Chicago, down to San Antonio, and everywhere in between.
By yourself?
By myself.
Too bad we didn't
I
have.
wrote that poem I shared with you.
I kept thinking about that.
Yes.
The Roach Motel one. It's still
That's
in my
right.
phone, and I'm still like, Danny and I were like,
Yeah.
Microphone. They
well,
can't
they
hear
don't
you.
know what I'm talking.
So I wrote a
Inside joke.
poem. No, I
Inside joke,
wrote a poem, through those times because they were so trying. I would stay in $35 a night hotels
Yeah.
because I wasn't going to get paid for 6 months, and I was only going to get paid on orders that I took. And it was a really trying time. And I was broke, man. Like, my friends would sneak 20s in my purse just so I could buy food at Publix. Publix is the grocery here in Florida. And
Wow.
that's when I started my second company. And I did that for 5 years. And I built that up to a couple $1 million in business. And then I felt compelled to open a retail store because I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. And I knew being on the road 36 weeks a year wasn't going to work. So that's when I opened my retail store. And then really experienced the inventory pains there. And then that just drove me nuts.
Retail's hard.
Yeah. So
I
when
loved it.
How did you go from
loved
like
it.
the retail though to what you're doing now? I mean, you're like, okay, I want to build this website. Like, what do I do? Like, where do I start?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
What was that process like?
So first off, I had seen this inventory problem in all those stores as I was a distributor. So for those 5 years on the road, I could never enter a store without them pointing out what didn't sell from the season before and saying, Mel, how can you help me? And the brands never wanted to take inventory back because inventory is a hot potato.
Yeah.
And so I began paying attention to what retailers are doing well with products in other areas. So if there was a size run of dresses that were sitting in Baltimore, but I knew they were blowing out in Birmingham, I would call the store in Birmingham and say, hey, you want some more of those dresses that you're doing well with?
Yeah.
They're not coming from the brand. They're coming from a retailer, but how about I get them your way? So I was facilitating these merchandise exchanges manually, and it was not scalable.
Oh
But my husband saw it, and he said to me, Mel, this is not a you problem. This is an industry problem. This is a lack of a network that needs to exist, and you should build it.
Oh.
So that's when he planted the seed. But there were a lot of things that hadn't happened yet in our industry, so the timing wasn't right. But then when I became a retailer and suddenly I had this problem and no one was helping me, that's when this became really powerful. And I watched this problem, in 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and finally I cried uncle. And I was like, I have just got to try to solve this. No one has come to our rescue. So Steve Blank has a course on Udemy called The Lean Startup. That's where I started.
Oh.
But you have to remember, I'd had a lifetime of proof points that I could do anything I put my mind to.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I didn't know how to do it didn't scare me at all, because I didn't know how to do anything else I'd done either. And it seemed to work out just fine.
And when you say you didn't know how to do it, a lot of it is tech driven, right? It's like me in the financial service business building Owwll. I don't know how to build an app.
That's right.
Right. I learned it all from talking to people and
Precisely.
and just gaining knowledge and running with it and executing and having intuition. So is that the same? When
Absolutely.
you're saying like you didn't have the knowledge, you knew there was a problem, but like you didn't know much about AI. Well, there wasn't as much AI then when you were building this, but in general, like websites, portals, checking out, like that didn't exist on the retail side that you're speaking of, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so first I began with Steve Blank's Udemy course. And then I said, gee, I got to get some mentors. And so I started researching on the internet who could be a mentor for me. And I came across a gentleman, Kieran McCammon. He was one of the co-founders of Poshmark. He was the CTO of Moda Operandi at the time. And his blog, the way he wrote, I was like, wow, I just love this guy. And so I just started emailing him and leaving messages with his secretary. And I stalked this man for months. I think finally he called me because he's like, this broad is not going to leave me alone.
She's got to kill me.
She's just
We got to see what's happening here. I'm scared.
Yeah. So he calls me and I say, hi, I'm Melodie and I'm a retailer and there's this really big inventory problem and I want to solve it. Where do I start?
Oh, wow.
And, I said to him, how do I find a you so that I can do this, so that I can build this? He said, well, listen, you're probably not going to find a me, but I'll give you a name of a third-party company. They're overseas and they can help you, get it off the feet, right? Get off the ground. So I said, may I call you again? May I keep calling on you about this? And he was like, sure, you're pretty entertaining.
He's like, no one's ever done this to me before. Go for it.
Right. So 6 months later, my husband actually helped me land my technical co-founder. They had been lifelong friends. He's like a super genius. And he started working on building this. And then I went to one of my customers at my store and I said, hey, listen, do you want to be an angel investor? You've been watching me work on this for years while I'm owning the store. What do you think? And she's like, yeah, I'm in. I believe in you. I know you're going to do anything you set your mind to.
How many years ago are we talking?
2017, 18, okay. 19. Yeah, I've been on this journey for a while, right?
Yeah.
And so roped in a technical co-founder, got some investment capital, and then I called Kieran back and I was like, hey, I found a you. He's building it for me. And I got the money to hire that company that you told me about. Now can I show you my wireframes? Can I get more of your feedback? And this began our relationship. He was an unofficial advisor for 2 years. And then he became an official advisor for 2 years. So cool. Yeah. And then he became our fractional CTO.
Wow.
For the last 18 months. And I joked with him. I was like, hey, remember when you told me I was never going to get anyone like you? Well, I got you, bud. Because I just love him so much. And like we have this beautiful relationship because he's just a generous individual and he's so brilliant. And if I hadn't been courageous enough to just cold clock someone and stalk them,
and ask. Often people just don't ask. And there's a lot of people that will mentor. You know how many people I know that just are like, hey, it'd be cool to help somebody out, but just nobody ever asks.
But you know what's rewarding? I'll be honest with you, because now I'm in the mentoring position, is only when people follow through with the advice you give them. Mm-hmm. If someone spends their time with you and gives you valuable advice, the biggest insult is for you to do nothing with it. Don't call them again. If you call someone again, it better be to say, hey, listen, I took your advice. I followed it down the path. This is why it worked or why it didn't work. It doesn't have to work. But if you say, I listened to you, then you know what they want to do? They want to give you more advice. But if it falls on deaf ears, I don't want to spend more time with someone who doesn't want to listen to the last piece of advice because there's a reason I gave it. And I felt like it would be meaningful to them in the same way that Kieran, every step of the way, has given me wisdom. And there have been times that him and I have disagreed, right? But we continue to talk about it, or I continue to at least say, hey, listen, this is why I don't think this is right. And we respect one another. And it's really a beautiful relationship just to watch them grow. To your point, relationships grow and they deepen. And there's something really beautiful about that. But it all starts with a call to someone you don't know.
Which is happening right now on the OWLL app because we're about to log in.
Okay.
And call someone, Mel, that you do not know. And we're going to patch him. We're going to patch him into this podcast. So
while he's doing that, though, I'm curious. We talked a lot about like building your business. I'm curious about the hiring process for you. Like, obviously, finding good employees is not always easy. So, like, obviously, at this point, you've grown a lot. What are you always the person to like do the interviews? Do you have an HR person? Like, you're such a go-getter and like a doer that you obviously want people under you who are like the same way. So like, what is your criteria for that? What is your process for that?
So I'm very blessed. My co-founder, Morgan, is an executive recruiter by trade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you did mention her recruiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's epic.
Oh, awesome.
And so she handles all of that. Okay, and nice. She knows the culture fit. Really, I think that's the most important thing that she's hiring for is not just skill, but right now we have 37 domestic employees and something like 13 overseas. And with a headcount of 50, you want people to be a good fit.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, John.
Hello, John.
Hey, John. It's Jason.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm great.
Well, are you okay being recorded? You're on my other podcast, the OWLL Podcast right now, and you're here with Mel, the CEO of Max Retail. So are you okay with this?
Hi, nice to meet you.
That's fine.
I saw you live. He was on the Shrimp Tank last week. He's the president of K-12.
I called you yesterday.
Look at this.
I called him on OWLL yesterday or the day before and learned all about his business. And we talked about, it's Ellie, by the way. We talked about him making me t-shirts for when I'm ready to get merch for my music stuff. So
sure. Yeah. We just spoke yesterday.
Yeah, that was yesterday. I'm like, what day was that? Yeah. Good to chat with you again.
So John, I just saw you live and I'm like, what you guys are doing with technology, they invested over $3 million. Like, think about like Vistaprint for a second. Yeah. Like they do, orders for t-shirts, mugs, but invested so much behind the scenes on this new technology that everyday people like myself who run businesses just need 100 mugs tomorrow, 100 t-shirts. Cause like most men, we do things last minute, right? Yeah. Mother's Day's around the corner. I'll probably get to the store, the day before to buy a gift. Unfortunately, that's how us men think. So his business, literally, they invested so much and they're doing such an amazing job. And John, so Mel's business is kind of doing the same thing in a different vertical, right? They're helping all these brick and mortar retail stores that have that sale rack, right? Think about all the inventory, right? Sure. All these businesses lose so much money because they don't know how to handle it. And she created this whole, online system that matches people together behind the scenes to get these goods sold direct to consumers, different verticals, of course. So want to just connect you two. You guys haven't met right when we were talking on the podcast. The most important thing in business and entrepreneurship is just sometimes calling someone you don't know and ask for help. So Mel, meet John, and one of you guys ask each other a question. How about that?
I got my question ready, John.
Go for it.
All right, go.
So first off, congrats on what you've built. That's super amazing and a huge investment. And I'm excited for everything that you're going to do with it.
Thank you.
On the inventory aspect of it, are you purchasing and housing this inventory so that it's in stock to print on?
Yes, we purchase and house a lot of it. So most of the stuff is like Jason said, 24-hour ship. Other stuff that we don't keep in stock. There's warehouses very close to here, and I can have the stuff same day. So yeah, that's what we focus on. Is
I love that for you.
That fast turnaround. And if you order, we want it to ship out tomorrow and get it in your hands as quickly as possible. And you don't have to sit on the inventory. There's no minimums.
That's so amazing. So you can do a small order, you can do a large order.
Absolutely. Our equipment's very, very efficient. we can run 1,000 shirts or, of all the same artwork, or 1,000 different shirts. And it takes the same amount of time. Since it's digital, there's no setups in between. It's a file, we print it and get it out the door.
I love that. And what inventory are you keeping stock in? First of all, I'm always going to cheer for the business that doesn't have the inventory asset. So the fact that you're telling me that you can get inventory from sources within a day to do your job and not take on that risk makes me super stoked. What kind of merchandise that are you comfortable with that you have on hand? It must just be inventory that's really highly requested, I imagine.
It is the biggest sellers, as far as t-shirts. Obviously you have the Hanes and the Gildens as just, the giveaway shirts, things like that. But then we also stock the Bella Canvas and the Next Level and some of the more premium brands, where you get into the tri-blends and the shirts that fit a little tighter and if people are more, a little more picky about the fit of the garment.
Awesome. Well, for someone like you, any of that more premium product, if it's just not being purchased or selected and you're saying, hey, I've had this sitting here a while, that would be a use case for Max Retail, where you would just list the data on Max Retail. We would be able to push it to our 18 different partner sites. And when orders come through, we just send you a shipping label to send it out and you get paid your wholesale cost back on it.
Love it. I think it's a great idea. I look forward to learning more about it.
Awesome. Where are you based?
West Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, okay. Us too.
Yeah.
See that? See what just happened?
Yeah, just outside West Palm.
Okay, so you and I are very close. We're off of 45th Street. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. We're off of 95 between Blue Heron and North Lake.
Okay, I'll have to come and see samples. We have lots of company retreats, and we like to do trade shows and give our retailers swag. So I can have my business partner and I come by sometime and see what you got.
That would be great.
Oh, so nice to meet you, John.
And John, I think I could be wrong here. Do you guys do stuff with Place of Hope? I know you guys do a lot with nonprofits.
Yeah, we've recently connected with them. Emily Pampalitis put us in touch with them. We've had a couple meetings. They're going to bring some of the people they work with through our facility. We may have a job program for them. We're looking into things like that. And but yeah, I think we'll be doing things together in the future.
John, I love that. I'm a big fan of Place of Hope. For the
Great
podcast,
organization.
yeah, for the
Yeah, great
podcast to know,
organization.
and any of the listeners, Place of Hope actually places foster care children that are in our county in family style living. So, for instance, if two siblings are taken out of the home in the middle of the night, instead of them going to two separate foster homes, which used to happen a lot, Place of Hope actually has entire communities built where they have staff parents, if you will, to keep siblings together. And they actually take care of, I think it's something crazy, like 30% of our county's foster children are cared for by Place of Hope. They also have a center for women who are expecting but don't have support group. They also have support for children who have aged out. So normally if you're in the foster care system, you turn 18 years old, you're out, you're on your own, not with Place of Hope, Villages of Hope. So I imagine it would be Villages of Hope that would, maybe have the opportunity to have that program with you. But it's really a spectacular organization, and the vision there is huge, and the impact is as well.
Yeah, I felt the same way when we sat down and met with them. Just what they're doing in the county, and I think the Tri-County area, even south in Broward, I think they have and North and Stewart, I think they have campuses. Just what they're doing is amazing, and yeah, we'd like to support it in any way we can.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. I love that we have that in common. And that's another thing. I would never know that, right? If I wasn't sitting here with you and they had me fill out this little form and they're like, hey, what charity do you like? And I'm like, well, I love Place of Hope.
Data points. So you get to
Very cool. Very cool.
People, of course.
I love that.
And you may not have known this, either of you guys, but we launched the OWLL Podcast with Charles.
No.
It was our first.
Right?
It was our first guest, and we did something cool, kind of like Amazon Prime does. We did OWL Week, where every single day, like we did a Zoom, we had a club back when Clubhouse was big, Clubhouse rooms. There was no LinkedIn audio back then, and we just did different things every single day. We gave out bonuses on the platform, and all the money got donated. We're a startup. There wasn't much money. I actually felt bad. I had to bring it up a little bit because I'm like, we only made like $100.
Charles is grateful for everything.
Let me bring some more. Then I was like, to my wife, I was like, what do we got at our house that we don't need anymore? So I gave him I showed up with a car full of stuff plus some money because a new app. We're taking such a small margin when we launched,
Right.
But they were our launch partner.
That's so cool.
On the OWLL Podcast, and Charles is great. And then we went down there. Ellie wasn't with us at the time. Stephanie, Travis, and Jimmy, and we went and donated our time.
I love it.
We went back there, we folded clothes, and really understood the mission behind the scenes volunteering.
Too cool. I also know Emily Pantelides from Junior League. So it's, John and I, we don't have 5 degrees of separation. We've got 3 degrees of togetherness.
Yeah. Well,
right. With Emily, she really knows how to put us together, doesn't she?
That's true.
Is that how you were referred to us actually through Emily's PR firm, I think? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Emily was on the Shrimp Tank.
Love
so
it.
It goes back to relationships.
Da-da-da.
Right? The compounding effect and knowing one individual and the next. So I got connected through John in K-12 through Emily. Then Emily, I don't even know how Emily and I met originally, but who knows? But we run a podcast. So naturally PR firms are like, hey,
that's fair.
Let's learn about the shrimp tank. What's going on over there? It's a good opportunity for our clients, of course. And then if Charles at some point landed on the shrimp tank. So
that's awesome.
Small world.
Too cool.
Right.
Well, John, thanks for joining us here on the OWLL Podcast, and looking forward to seeing you on OWLL more frequently. I know a lot of people are calling you, and Mel's about to experience the same thing next week when she makes herself available on the OWLL.
Wonderful. I'll be calling.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, John.
Later.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay, Mel, what should we do here? Should we give him 5 stars?
Oh my gosh, give him 10 stars. Why are you stopping at
What should we
5?
say? What call with Mel?
So tell me how we do this here.
Amazing.
This is just the rating at the end of the call. So most people, I don't think I've ever given less than 5 stars. We do vet everyone that comes onto OWLL. So I've never had a bad experience. But if for some reason you did get a creeper, you had a bad experience, you can report somebody. Cool. So it's just another added layer of safety, security.
Cool. That's nice.
Yeah. And then
it's only now calls, so no one has their phone number. So if you're having a bad experience, okay, next, you don't have to deal with speaking to them again. So it really controls everyone's boundaries.
Very nice.
The outbound caller, the inbound caller, and just making sure that everything runs the correct way.
Super cool. Okay, who are we calling next?
Okay, you be the judge.
Yeah.
So there's only about 20 people available right now.
Okay.
So we have Will, men's emotional coach.
Okay, let me see.
Blueprint, happiness expert. CTO, corporate dynamics. Lynn, licensed advisor, travel agent.
Yeah.
Jared, CROOTB Digital.
I think
a
I saw
doctor.
someone earlier that was available. I want to see if she's still available.
Jella. She does a lot with female founders, especially on LinkedIn.
There was someone on there that was kind of like a sales manager. She was from South Carolina. I remember I saw her, but she interested me because, you can never not have enough calls with people who know how to manage sales teams, right? There's always something to learn. Somebody who's working it at a different angle. So that she did interest me. I'm probably going to stalk her.
So pick one because we'll do one more call.
And, this is a tip that for people listening and for you, Mel. So if there's somebody that you see on OWLL that you want to call and like this saleswoman, I want to talk to her later, you can make sure that you follow her. And that way, if you follow her with the OWLL in the right-hand corner, then you'll get a notification when she goes live. So
cool.
Yeah.
So just follow her.
Just follow her.
Very cool.
Yep.
Okay. Jared is getting a call.
Calling Jared.
Let's hope Jared picks up. Of course, like any technology, we have a missed call rate because a lot of people will make themselves available, jump into Zoom, go to
They
the
put
bathroom.
their office hours on. They don't.
Oh, we got one. We got one. Okay. Hello, Jared.
Hey, can you hear me?
What's going on? You're live on the OWWL Podcast. Are you okay being recorded?
I do not mind. How's it going?
We are streaming live everywhere, and you're here with Mel. She's the CEO of Max Retail. Say hello.
Hey, Mel.
Hi, Jared. Nice to meet you. I was scrolling down the list of people who were live, and I saw that you are a marketing guy, and that caught my eye. So it's nice to be connected.
So likewise. I'm new. I'm fairly new in the app, but I'm loving the experience so far. I met some great people, and I definitely wasn't expecting to go live, but I love it.
I love it. Cool. So I have a company called Max Retail where we enable independent retailers to sell their excess inventory online. And we make it super easy, and we help them make anywhere from an extra $500 to $20,000 a month by clearing out their excess inventory. And the marketing question I have for you is most of my customers are super busy, right? They're so busy in store. They're actually not even thinking about that sale rack. So this $100,000 loss a year is an afterthought for them. How would you, as a marketing guy, go about approaching, getting in front of them and making them realize this problem that they have?
Oh, that's a great question.
Well, that's a loaded
I
question.
think they already have a great problem. The question I would want to ask to really give you a fine answer was, how are they getting business right now? What are they utilizing to drive traffic into their store or actually do business? Because they got more business than they can handle. They're not going to see the lost potential of revenue, right? So how are they keeping customers and how they're retaining customers is a good question to know how to market to the other ones.
Right. So what are the busy people doing, and what is generating that for them, and who are the not busy people? How to sort them out? Is that kind of
exactly? So if you're busy and you're getting, because if you're a business owner, you're profitable and you're getting the biggest thing, right, to keep on getting more customers and more net revenue is creating a great experience. Now, if you're too busy to create a great experience, then that's something that you need to be doing, or branding, or you can even brand yourself as an exclusive product or exclusive whatever it is, right? Build a small community and give access slow at a time so you can have people, kind of want it and create a mysterious vibe around your product or service.
Yeah, that's always for us like a double-edged sword, right? It's like we do carefully gate the marketplace, right? You have to be vetted to be a seller on Max Retail. And it's always tricky to say, okay, what is enough friction and what is too much friction for a customer to come to us, right? Once they've seen our site and they understand what we do. So, ultimately, there's over 2 million of these customers between North America and Europe alone, of these independent retailers with this excess inventory. However, getting mass reach of them, we can't have people on the phone signing on every single retailer. There has to be a way to vet them and get them in, but still gate it. I appreciate your comment and your questions. I also love it when somebody answers a question with a question that makes you think, right? That's always good, because I love that. I love that. It makes you think, right? About like, okay, well, is there a different question I should be asking?
Yeah.
No, but I do want to ask you something else though.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to create something where you can gate it, have you ever tried interactive content?
No, what's that?
So interactive content, essentially, you go to a landing page and it's actually asks the user a series of questions. It could be 5, 10, 15, and make it an interactive experience. It could be gamified, it could be whatever, but that could be the way for you to vet the new sellers, and I actually have sellers on the phone. Because if people are coming to your website and actively vetting to be a merchant or work with you, or partner with you, why are they leaving off, right?
Right.
So just make it less friction, have it gamified, and then you still collect their information and you know what they want from you when they come to you.
Right. Yeah,
so
that's
a great way to collect information.
I like it. Yeah, right now we have like an inbound form, and
Yeah.
oftentimes our customers are coming and they're filling out that form at night because it's after they've put their kids to bed. It's when they have time.
Yep.
And that's not when we have an SDR available to call them back. Right.
Facts. Yeah. Great.
So
Yeah.
I like this. Yeah. Good tip.
And then what happens
No
in the
problem.
sales pipeline? Where's the fall off?
So then we call them
Great
back.
question.
The team calls them back the next day, but then they're back to being busy in store again.
Hmm.
And so we see a lot of drop off just because people get busy again by the time the next day comes, when they make time for maybe doing research on things that can support their business at night when they finally have free time. They don't have customers walking in, they don't have vendors calling them. So just seeing that's really driving our business to this thing called product-led growth, because it is just reducing the friction while gaining the community, that delicate dance. But I'm going to play with this word interactive that you've given me.
Yeah, I would definitely think that you would see a better a better conversion rate. And plus, it makes it a more memorable customer experience rather than just having a landing page with some serious generic questions.
Cool. Very cool.
I always love that app that has like the winning bonus, even though I know it's a lie. Like they're like, you won 100% bonus. I'm like, it's like Temu does it, right? It's like, but it's so cool. That thing spins. It's roulette, right? And
right.
Look at gambling, like the lights, the colors. Like, what am I gonna win? It's so staged.
I would love to
They
understand
get me
that
every
algorithm.
time. They get me every time.
Right. And I
would love to know the advert.
I need that for OWLL actually. Like you enter the app, like, will you get a bonus?
Right. How many minutes will you get
got
free today?
You got $10 bonus. Who would have thought that one?
Yeah.
Right.
What was that, Jared?
From a marketing perspective, what is the adverse effect of that, right? You got the wheel with the $100 free off, 15% off, and usually you get the worst selection of them all, right? So what happens to your customer experience when you get the 2% off and not the 15%? How does that customer feel?
Right. From when you spin the wheel.
Exactly. So to give you context, I'm a marketer, but I'm a seller, right? So how my claim to fame, how I built my business, I went on LinkedIn and built a personal brand. So I wanted to basically vet people like you were doing and have the sales come to me and create an inbound engine. So I just built a personal brand and had people come to me and we're just talking about my everyday life, right? So it created less friction. My sales conversion went up, and and that's what we basically did. And we created a whole podcast around it, a whole sales funnel, and we created our own business. I wasn't able to stay in corporate for that.
Has either of you read?
Encourage anybody to do that. Build your brand on LinkedIn specifically.
There you go. Have either of you read the book, The 80-20 in Sales and Marketing?
I have not.
Oh my gosh.
But I've heard a lot about it.
It's very similar to what Jarrett just said.
Yeah.
And it was given to me by a friend of mine. And actually, he was speaking with this billionaire friend of his about me. And the guy goes into the other room, gets this book out and says, give this to Mel. And that's how I got my hands on this book. He said, this is how I made all my money. So for anyone out there, the 80-20 in sales and marketing, it'll blow your mind. And it's interesting because I've just been reading it in these last 2 weeks, right? And I find myself, I don't know about you, but when I read books about business, I read a chapter and then I stop and I go back and I read it again. I actually don't read a book end to end. It can take me months to read a book because I'm committed to digesting it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I listen to audio, mainly because I do it at night when I'm falling asleep and then I don't retain any of the information. So I'm like, I just listen to audiobooks when I drive. It's way better. But
yeah, any way to get it to sink in
as
much as you can.
Yeah.
I'm one of those crazy people. I just talk to a lot of people, pick their brain, right?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people love reading. I'm more of like, I speak to people and I just absorb knowledge. And then I ask more questions and get detailed. And I've never been a reader. I just, I read obviously naturally through LinkedIn, right? On social posts. So I'm always reading and I'm absorbing, but I've never been that book reader. I don't know.
Do you know what?
And I know everyone talks about like,
no, I was never a reader. And this wasn't even a New Year's resolution. But I went to a really amazing opportunity in Hawaii for founders and investors a couple months back. And I was speaking with a really successful entrepreneur who was just coming out with his book, right? And what I realized is so often we crave for 10 minutes with someone, which is nice and easier to give. But other times you need like an hour or 2 hours or a reoccurring meeting, which can cost from like a super seasoned person hundreds to thousands of dollars to get that time.
Oh, sure.
When someone writes a book with everything that they know the most about, it is a gift. And what I realized is that gift only normally costs anywhere from 14 to 39 bucks.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know what? That allows me to unpack all of their knowledge and all of their blood, sweat, and tears that they poured into that book and digest it into my brain at my speed for pennies on the dollar compared to that. And would I even get the FaceTime with some of these people? But if I read their book, there's actually more likelihood that I'll get the FaceTime with them.
Because, oh, hey, I remembered
your book.
your thing about
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, oh, she actually
Correct.
cares. Yeah.
I see that a lot. You know, I listen to certain people's podcasts and it makes it easy when you call them
Yeah.
to say, hey, you know, I heard your podcast a couple weeks ago. I've been thinking about how that applies to my business, and they're going to be more likely to give you their time. So there's a tip, right? Like read a book if you want to get someone's FaceTime, because you're going to flatter them that you actually did the work. And most time, if you reach out to somebody who's a big muckety muck, they're going to tell you, go read my book. I actually put that down. That exact question you asked me, I put in a book. So I've only recently like gotten on this bandwagon.
That's all.
That's cool. Yeah. I love it.
Well, Jared, thanks for joining us here on the OWWL Podcast. Go check our YouTube account at OWWL account. You can check out, you're up on the big TV. We had your profile up and screen recorded and posted. I know you enjoy posting stuff. And
Thanks for
clipping
hanging
stuff.
out, Jarrett.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye.
It's time.
Okay, it's bedtime.
What does that mean?
Oh,
You
we don't
know, it's
tell
the
you
secret-
everything.
the secret
We
part of
told you this. You'd say no.
Okay.
I will not be doing it, but you're not good at saying no. So
I don't receive it and I don't give it.
go ahead while I leave this review.
Yes.
I will let
Okay.
Ellie share with you
So
the bet.
every week we basically pick a challenge for our guest. So, I mean, we call it bet, but wager, whatever you want to call it, essentially. So we'll ask you to do something. If you do it, you get something from us. If you don't do it, we get something from you.
So fun.
Typically, I would say you said Mondays are hard for you. So I'm going to let you do this in your own time. I'll just say you have to
Let's link it to Mentorship Monday.
no, but she doesn't like Mondays. She's busy.
I missed that part.
Mondays
Sorry,
are
I'm over
fun.
here searching.
Yeah, that's
and
why I was like, let's
getting your profile
yeah,
up.
no. So that's why
By the way, you need a new headshot.
Oh, I agree.
This.
I'm a busy girl. Who's
This
got
is
time
a-
to take my picture?
Do you have a real headshot, or you just threw one up here because it was in your camera?
The one on that was from Google. The one on LinkedIn, I used AI,
Okay.
and it was actually like kind of crappy.
No,
But then
we're-
I
we're
went on
fixing this.
Photoshop and I fixed it because it made me look older. I was like, I don't know what you think you're going
No.
for. So, and my husband's a great photographer, but every picture I have is with me and my kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Daniel Wakefield was on the shrimp tank today. Daniel, she's gonna go
Right?
live.
That could be the bet.
You are calling Mel, and you are spending the money on a good headshot because this is not you, and your brand, right? You have to talking about marketing earlier. It's like that is the most important thing. That photo is the first thing that someone sees when they click your LinkedIn, your Instagram, and you only get that little circle. So we need you to connect with Daniel Wakefield. Okay.
Okay. Next.
Next, the
So
bet.
let's
bet.
the
Did
bet.
you pick
Okay,
your
I
bet?
think that I think we should just have you go live, and I would say 5 calls. I would say you have to make or receive 5 calls. So you'll go live. If you don't receive them in that time, you reach out to other people and you make the calls within the week.
Okay, I'm going to do the
That's-
lunchtime tip that I told you. When I'm walking to lunch and
Deal.
walking back,
Deal.
I'll turn it on.
Yep.
Okay.
And
That
if
could
no
be
one calls
one-
me on the walk there, I'll
Uh,
call someone on the
One
walk
day,
back.
2 days, 4 days. How many days?
Well, I said 5 calls.
I don't need lunch 5 days a week, team.
So it could be they're 10-minute
Go to lunch 5 days a
calls.
week.
They're 10-minute.
No, I wish I did.
Okay.
Mondays don't give me even lunch.
Okay. Okay.
So that if you wanted to do 1 call a day, I mean, you have 7 days to do it.
I can
And
do
10
it.
minutes.
Calls are
10
only 10 minutes.
It's 10 minutes.
I can say from by
10 minutes a day.
I would say by
There-
10 minutes. Yeah.
There are people on all out. It's not just during the day. Like if you have more time at night, there's people on then.
Yeah,
all hours.
commuting. She drives.
No, no. Yeah, exactly. On
Yeah.
the drive.
She
So
could-
that's what
on
we
the walk,
want. That's what
drives
we
and walks.
want. So if you do that, you get something from us. So what would you like? So we could offer you, for example, our studio for a day. If you wanted to do your own podcast, we could offer you. Well, Jason knows a lot of people. So if I don't know if you have an introduction in your mind.
He might be up on the television with it. He might be a very well-known headshot photographer.
Oh, you're so
Um,
funny.
But again,
Okay, so
that's-
if I-
I can't discount his rates.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say,
yeah. It's not like he can offer a free headshot.
No.
Um,
But you
but
know what? Let me
you could also think
on
about
it.
what you might want.
Kind of want to see what your swag is around here, you know?
We got t-shirts that say you could pick, my brain after you select your payment method.
I do like
we could do a big order to K-12.
I don't know. I'm looking at that mug over there. It's a pretty chic little black mug. I'm kind of a sucker for things that I can drink beverages out of. Can I get a mug?
You get a mug. You get a whole swag package from OWL.
Yeah,
Very
whole
good.
swag.
If you win, you get a whole swag package from OWL.
I like swag.
Is that fair? That's the
Very
deal.
fun.
Okay, we'll juice it up.
Wait.
What?
What do we get?
Oh, what do we
What do
get?
we get if
I
she
do
loses?
this. I do this every week. I just take the
He's
bet.
so excited. He's like,
Oh,
they're just
that's
gonna do
good.
it, and I'm
No.
just gonna give him.
I
what they
feel
want.
like she's gonna do it because you already proved yourself by downloading OWL ahead of this.
You have to
but-
make us an introduction.
Yeah,
to
an introduction to an investor.
You know a lot of investors on the West Coast that I do not know. I know a lot of people on the East Coast
That's right.
and down here in South Florida, but I don't know as much on the West Coast, and I'm too busy to always find investors. I
would do that for you anyways.
Just want one quality introduction that would fit the model you think for the OWL brand. Just one. I want you to put your heart into it.
I would do that for you anyways.
Okay, there it is.
That's called the right thing to do.
And I was going to give you the swag after you left the episode anyway, so it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
So, one of my favorite sayings that we have a neon sign. I love that you have a neon sign in here. At our office, we have a neon sign that says, "We lift while we climb."
Hmm.
And, it's so important because it is easy when you are doing well to just get consumed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you have to find time to give, even if it is just a drive,
Mhm.
even if it is just a walk, because that is really just that is where the virtuous cycle kicks in.
It's good
right?
karma, guys. It's good karma.
I mean, there are so many people who've been so generous with me. It overwhelms me to think of that, right?
Yeah.
And so if I can help other people cut a couple years of pain
Yeah.
and hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars off of their respective timelines, I would love to. I think it's so empowering. And right, that is mentorship. Mentorship is when you can take something you've learned and allow someone to move faster than you.
Mhm.
To me, if the people who I mentor become more successful than me, that is a win.
Mhm.
I'm wowed today. This was a lot.
No,
There was
right?
a
She's
lot
a
of info.
genius.
This was a
Woo!
lot. Today's episode packed in 1 hour. Well, Mel, thank you for joining us here on the OWL Podcast. Everyone listening, of course, check her out on social media, Max Retail, but just call her on OWL. She said it today. You got to the end of this show. She's taking calls all next week while walking and driving. Pick her brain about anything we talked about during today's episode. Take care, everybody. We'll be back next Wednesday around 5 p.m.